Welcome to Awakening with Wilson. I'm Wilson. On today's episode, we will be talking about my personal spiritual journey so far. More importantly, my Kundalini awakening. So, my spiritual journey started, I'm going to say, probably when I was around 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, I saw an entity. A little background story on that. My grandfather died when I was about 9 years old, the day after Christmas. Leading to his funeral, I had many dreams about how the funeral would be, where it would be, interactions with people. And come the actual funeral, so a lot of those things were pretty accurate. But something happened after the funeral, something I'll never forget. After the funeral, I was sitting in my bedroom. I was laying in my bed. I had a bunk bed. And from my bunk bed, I could see the hallway in the house. And my parents' bedroom was right next to mine. And then my sister was down the hallway. And the hallway was dark. All the lights were off. The only source of light really was the TV I was watching in my bedroom. I started hearing someone call my name, a voice that I'm not used to hearing. I look down the hallway. I lean up over on my bunk bed and look down the hallway. And I see this, we're going to call it an entity. To describe this entity, I would like to describe it as, I'm a millennial and I grew up with a show called Static Shock. And in Static Shock, the main character, he would shoot like lightning and stuff. And so how I would describe this was, it was a stick figure person, probably about 6 foot tall, made out of like a purple lightning, but like a stick figure, not like a regular person, but like a stick figure, but it was big. And it kept saying my name and saying my name. This scared the crap out of me. I'm going, what the heck is this? My grandfather had just died, and I ain't never seen ghosts before, nothing like that. And I definitely didn't recognize what this was, never seen anything like that before. I was just so scared. So when that happened, I hopped out of my bunk bed and I went right out my door. Thankfully, the thing was right in front of me, so a couple feet, and all I had to do was hang a left because my dad's door and my parents' door and my door were almost connected, basically. So I get into my parents' room, I hop into my parents' bed, I'm scared shitless, and I tell my mom what had happened, and she goes, "Oh, I can hear it too." Now I'm even more freaked out. That was probably my first, what I would refer to as spiritual experience growing up as a kid. Growing up, it was pretty docile after that. Still had some kind of weird dreams and stuff like that, but nothing really major. I ended up, high school football, played a little college football. Got out of college, had a decent GPA, and I started an excavation company with my dad. He had an excavation company previously, and it kind of shut down when we moved up to Washington. Let's start it back up. Well, after starting this excavation company, sometimes in business, you start getting angry and frustrated. And I already had some anger issues, and I was just getting angry and frustrated. Long story short, I got tired of being angry and frustrated. So in the summer of 22, I guess you could say I started looking into like meditation and frequencies and things like that. I was already kind of into conspiracy theories, like the kind of stuff like you'd see on like Alex Jones and InfoWars kind of stuff. The Epstein Island thing before that actually became mainstream news, things like that. And just overall poison in the food, all that stuff. And in the summer of 22, I had stumbled upon a video by Sarah R. Adams. She's a multidimensional coach, and she's on Gaia, and she's all over the metaphysical landscape when it comes to, entertainment and stuff like that. But I was watching her speak in like an auditorium setting, and she was talking about ETs and astral projecting, but then she started talking about like the spiritual war that's going on and the spiritual entities that have dug themselves into people and that are kind of running things. I think we all kind of may or may not know what I'm talking about, but it seems like there's some evil in this world. And she was kind of talking about where it came from on the spiritual side of things. And so after she explained that in that video, everything for me, as far as a conspiracy theory I've ever really heard before, everything started making sense. All the dots got connected. It was like, for me, it was like opening Pandora's box. Hey, everything makes sense now. After that, I was already around that time having some digestive issues when it came to drinking alcohol. So I had just completely quit drinking alcohol in the summer of 22. I was getting more into meditation, started wearing stones, working on my chakras, all that good stuff. In fall of 22 into the winter of 23, I became very interested in Kundalini. And I started reading many books on specifically Kundalini syndrome. I wanted to know, like, okay, what is this, first of all? What happens when people have Kundalini syndrome? What is this? So I started reading a lot of books on stories about Kundalini and the negative effects of Kundalini syndrome, and started really getting versed in what this actually is and what can happen and problems people have with it specifically. I also started doing parasite cleanses. Me and my fiance, we were doing parasite cleanses, and we were also doing he has health issues already, so we already have an alkaline diet, but I started taking more into account my own diet and making sure I had an alkaline diet. And I started paying attention to PRAIL, which is potential renal acid load, just to ensure I do have an alkaline diet. And I was also starting to practice semen retention. Now, like I said, I was already doing meditation, and I was listening to frequencies, binaural beats, but especially meditation. I really wanted to make sure all my chakras were healed and balanced. So I was every night and every day, I was doing some kind of work on my chakras. With Kundalini, people can awaken their Kundalini several ways. There's no one path to awakening Kundalini, and there's no one path for Kundalini rising. There's many ways. There's some ways better than others, and some ways which are impossible, and then you have to, I'm not going to say realign, but you have to reroute the way the Kundalini's going. You do that through a guru. But anyways, for me, I guess you could say it may have been induced by a little bit of trauma, or a little bit of excitement, we'll say. Me and my dad, we were on our way to look at a land clearing job, and on the freeway, we got, he was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and on the interstate, there was another car, and they were having a little road rage issue. This guy wanted to pass, this guy wanted to pass. Nobody wants to let each other pass, and they're just, in my opinion, both parties were making complete asses out of themselves. But unfortunately for me, I was already mad about what my dad was doing. I'm like, dude, what is your freaking problem? And I was just laying into him verbally already. But unfortunately, our business name and my phone number is on the side of the truck. So they call me, and I'm trying to just play it off, sorry, be a nice guy, and just hang up and just kind of be done with the deal. And my dad's talking even more shit while I'm on the phone with this guy. And remember, he's a lane over watching the whole thing go down. One of the words out of his mouth there, I was like, oh, are you next to me? It was just a bad situation. I'd gotten really angry with my dad over the whole thing. But when I got home, I it was kind of a rough day for me. I got home and I was like, oh, I just need to relax. I went over to the bed. I laid down, didn't get in under the covers, but just laid on top of the bed. Took one deep breath after taking just one little hit off my little weed pen. And on that exhale, the Kundalini energy slithered right up my spine, 3.5 turns. If you're familiar with Kundalini, you'll know about this, but from your spine. 1, 2, 3, and on the half turn, that last half turn, it's like water dumping into your head. For me, I had the water dump into my head, and it was like, it's cold, like you can feel it. It feels like water. Obviously, it's not water, but it feels like water. The energy feels like water. And then I started to have a vision. First things got blue, and then it got kind of black, and then nothing happened. I had actually gotten distracted, and then kind of opened my eyes and just maybe I wasn't ready for it. I don't know, but that had happened, and it was quite the experience because immediately afterwards, I started having all of this ear buzzing. They talk about with clairaudience and just like spirit guides and stuff, they talk about having your ear ringing in either ear. Well, for me, it was both ears. It was high pitched buzzing, and it was really loud and nonstop to the point where I think I just got used to it. But this went on for months because when this happens, you have an increase of spiritual energy running through your body. So that did lead to a couple problems for me, though. Maybe not problems, but this is an energy I'm not used to, and it's taking a toll on my body, and I like to work out. I used to be a big, strong dude. I was having problems. It was bad enough finding the time to work out while working and running an excavation business, but now I got all this extra energy running through me, and with Kundalini, you go through DNA upgrades and body upgrades, and it takes a toll on your body, and so when I work out, I'm not recovering properly anymore, or not like I think I should, and it really takes a toll on you, and so I was looking for answers, because I was still pretty new to it. I read plenty of books, but books aren't experiencing it, and books only tell you so much. Because these were more like scientific books and case studies of people who have Kundalini syndrome. I mean, it was really the books I was reading. It wasn't like how do you do this. It was more like the symptoms of people who have had it, and then like different stories of people who have gone through it. And there's only so much you can put in a book on each person. But anyways, I searched through Facebook and found all these Kundalini pages, and I just started asking questions. And I ended up finding a guru in India who thankfully spoke good enough English to have a conversation with me. And we discussed what was going on with me and how everything happened. And he informed me that I had a deflected Kundalini rising. Now, Kundalini rises differently for everybody. For most, I mean, not all people just have it rise straight up from their crown chakra and it's a full rising right out the gate. For me, it certainly wasn't. So I had that deflected rising, and we did some meditations to some guided meditations with him and me to realign the energy and get it to raise through the proper pathway. But also he initiated me into like an energy healing, using that cosmic energy to heal yourself. You could also heal others, though. I'd gone through one healing initiation to heal myself, and then I'd gone through like a second level of healing initiation to strengthen that ability. I mostly do it on myself, but I have done it for a couple friends. For example, one friend had this kind of a like a growth or like a cyst about like probably like that big, kind of like a golf ball, like on their back. And they said it had been there for like a year. And I didn't even find this out until I told them about the healing thing, and then they had brought it up. And so we had gotten into like we were having like a campfire for a full moon anyways. So we all got in that circle. There's about a handful of us. And at the same time, we all set the intention to help heal this. And then I performed the actual healing through meditation and using the energy that was coming out of my hands. I didn't touch the person, but I just held my hands over them in the spot. And they told me that within the coming days, it had gotten very, very tender after that. And then in about a week in, it just burst. The pus came out. They cleaned it out, and it just healed. They were fine. About 2 weeks later, it was done and over with. Another friend, a period of time after that, had some kind of a hernia where they said it had popped out of their belly button, like intestine or something, and it was really hurting, but they had pushed it just back in with their finger, and they were in a considerable amount of pain and they were considering going to the hospital, but we were talking spiritual stuff, and I was already there, and he brought it up, and they said, well, maybe you can try that healing thing on me. And so I did, and we did a session of that and had good results, I guess. They were going to a hotel in the next few days, and there was a pool there, and they were able to go swimming in the pool without having any pain. And I told them, well, don't strain it. I'm not calling this a fix or anything. I mean, you just asked me to try, but they said they had really good results. So I already knew I could heal myself using that energy, but it's kind of nice knowing other people can benefit from it as well. But this isn't something like I do on a regular basis. It's very, very like upon request, and I don't advertise it or anything. I'm just discussing it because it's something I've gone through in my spiritual journey and part of my Kundalini awakening. I use it personally a lot of the times, especially after I first got initiated. I would do the meditation with the mantra to just let the energy run through my body to help heal myself, because Kundalini puts a lot of energy in your body and it can get very uncomfortable. I have found myself at night sometimes where the energy is really moving. I have to really practice consciously deep breathing and just kind of integrate myself into that vibration that's and that energy that's going through your body. It can be quite intense. So aside from that, I'm going to talk about some of the negative things about Kundalini awakening. A few things that are pretty obvious to me is tiredness. You can get really run down. That's why it's important to have a really good diet, specifically an alkaline diet. You don't want to be very acidic. Recovery, for me, I was not recovering like I used to from working out. It just wasn't the same. You go through psychological changes during Kundalini, so you may suffer some mental anguish. It's part of that mental anguish is kind of pushing your ego to the side. There's an integration where the ego is, you start to really recognize what the ego is, and you can kind of separate yourself from it. It's still there, it's always there, but you can there's a process to start separating yourself from it and saying, no, I'm in charge. The ego, you're not in charge. I'm in charge. The ego is here to keep us from getting eaten by lions and stuff like that. But there is a difference for sure. I was experiencing a lack of motivation for work. Didn't want to go to work anymore. I was tired, and the stuff I was doing just wasn't bringing joy to me. I just didn't want to do it. Another big thing, and this happened immediately, is I was getting really sensitive to energies. Music. I would not listen to the radio anymore. Even to this day, the radio in my truck or in my car, it's just off. I don't listen to the radio. I might hook up the Bluetooth and listen to something on my phone, but I don't listen to the radio. I took a break from TV for a while. I wouldn't watch TV anymore. It was just a bunch of low vibration garbage, in my opinion. And just music and other people too. I just couldn't be around certain people. I just couldn't put up with their low vibration crap. I got really, really sensitive to what I felt was low vibration people, places, things, food. I just didn't want no part of it. I had already understood the vibration of things and how it affects people, but after the Kundalini energy, having all that energy run through you, I had just gotten so much more sensitive to the energies of other things and people. So there's definitely a few month period where it took some adjusting, integrating back in with other people, because you got to understand, I estimate jobs and do jobs, so I got to deal with people. whether I like them or not, I got to deal with people, and I just have to keep pushing forward. Perhaps my occupation helped me get through that portion of Kundalini awakening better than others, because I just simply had to get it done. That's kind of how, unfortunately, that's kind of the way I was raised. You got to get things done. You go out and do it. Positive things about Kundalini awakening. I feel that Kundalini awakening helps you find your true path one way or another. And I think that's why people talk about Kundalini and how it can destroy your life. Personally, I've been through a couple things, and I don't think it destroys your life. It may seem that way, but you have to remember, everything that happens to you happens for you. I just gone through the negatives, but I'm going to bring up a couple more negative things that had happened to me in regards to what I believe to be karma and Kundalini energy bringing situations to you that you may not like, but had to happen. I had an experience where I was hooking up to a trailer with a dump truck, and not a little dump truck, like an actual dump truck for hauling gravel and stuff, and a decent sized backhoe. And I'd hooked up to the trailer. It has a pinnacle hitch, and I had two other people that watched me close the pinnacle hitch. It was latched properly. Hooked up the safety chains, airlines, all that. Then I loaded the backhoe onto the trailer. And the other thing about this is, on these trailers, if you don't have your pinnacle hitch connected properly to the truck and the trailer, when you load the machine, it'll lift the trailer off the pinnacle hitch, because there's all this extra weight in the back of the trailer when you first load the machine on. And the trailer stayed on the truck when I loaded the machine. I chained it down. We went to go move it. I left this truck and trailer unattended for maybe a minute while I opened and shut a chain link fence kind of gate at a job site. Next thing I know, about 5-10 minutes later, I'm driving down the interstate, and I lose the trailer. It just comes off. To this day, I don't know if it was divine intervention or if I did something stupid, but for some reason, that trailer came off. Thankfully, no one died. Thankfully, I didn't crash. Thankfully, only thing that got damaged was the trailer itself and a couple K-rails on the interstate. But to this day, I have no idea how that happened. Unrelated, but around the same time, I had a falling out with a certain potential business partner. I found out later that wasn't necessarily a person I wanted to do business with anyways. And there's always things to learn from these situations. But things like that, yes, that was a big problem for me when that happened. That was a big deal. And be careful, because Kundalini energy, I feel, can put you in situations that you're not going to like. But everything that happens to you happens for you. You have to remember that. You always have to remember that. So, other positive things that can happen with Kundalini awakening. finding truth, finding your truth. Also, you have greater feeling. For me, I learned to follow my heart. My heart chakra got much more activated during this time. I can feel when I'm doing something that maybe it's not that it's wrong or right, but my soul, myself isn't enjoying it, or the idea of doing something. You can feel it in your heart. You don't want to do it. And then there's other times where it lights up. And so you start to learn you start to learn how to follow your heart, find your truth, find truth in others. There's some spiritual abilities that go along with it. I'm not saying I can channel or anything like that, but I have experienced from time to time short periods of clairaudience where certain voices come in and they go, and right now I can't really make out exactly what they're saying. It's still a developing thing, but that is something that's happening. Depending on how you define clairaudience, or no, clairvoyance. I've experienced periods of that, like periods of 1 second you're having fun with people, the next second you just realize, it's like almost like a sobering realization of why those people are there, what their true intentions are, and it just kind of opens your eyes to what's actually going on around you. I've also experienced that same thing just talking to people, other people in business, just other people on the street. You talk to people. Well, for me, I talk to people and I can just tell, one, are they being authentic with me? Two, are they being truthful with me? And three, do they have another agenda? And it's just a knowing. You don't know how to explain it. It's just a knowing. Clairsentient, clear feeling. I've had an experience where I had Kundalini energy was running through me that night, and it was just a really weird, hard night to sleep. But I slept anyways, and I had a lot of weird dreams I didn't necessarily remember in the morning. All I knew in the morning was something weird was going to happen. All I knew is something bad was going to happen to me. I just wasn't sure what was going on. I was really concerned with my own safety. I was over at a job, and I thought maybe I was gonna have a vision and crack my head on the asphalt and have to go to the hospital or something. But instead, I had one of my employees. We were talking to one of my employees on the phone. My dad was with me, and my dad and the employee are talking. So I had a period of where I could just be silent, and I had this energy, just this ear buzzing come into my right ear, and it just came in, and my eye started twitching. This ear ringing was so strong in my right ear that my eye was twitching. For like 10 seconds, I wasn't saying nothing. I was just trying to be calm and look as normal as I could in the situation, but I was just like, for a good 10 seconds. It was really weird. But once it was done, it was done. But it was like, oh, that's what it was. That's what was coming. The other thing about positive things about Kundalini, you really get to train your discernment. I think Kundalini awakening really put me in many situations to train my discernment. Another thing I have gained from this experience is there's kind of a lack of fear and a certain sense of calmness during chaos. When that trailer thing happened, I was talking about earlier, when the truck was off the trailer, at no point did I feel scared or panic. It's weird. It's like watching a movie kind of sometimes. You're just watching it happen, and you're just calm. You still understand it's a bad situation. You still have solutions going through your mind, ways to mitigate the issue, but there was just no panic. It was just calm. I had another situation where I was on a job cutting down a tree, and I was by myself, and this limb was kind of like a widowmaker, and I knew there was a potential for it to be a widowmaker, but this tree had kind of like this kind of like a cavity in it. So, and it was a big tree, so I could fit my whole body in it. And I was cutting this tree, or this limb of the tree off, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to. It came straight at me. But at no point, and these are split second decisions. There's just no panic. I just took a step back. It barely caught my pants. My pants were a little ripped, but I didn't have a scratch on me. I was fine. And I was calm. I was just really calm through the whole thing. Um, I it's weird. I just don't experience that that feeling of panic anymore. It's always calmness during chaos. Always calmness during chaos. What else do we have? Manifesting. Manifesting has gotten a lot easier. Now, the larger things, trying to manifest, those always take a little time. And if they're not in alignment with you, I don't feel they manifest that quickly. I'm still working out my true path. Like I said, I had a deflected Kundalini rising. I'm still working on having a full rising and completing that process. Another thing about the Kundalini awakening is, and this may just be through my own research of spiritual things and my own self-work and stuff like that, but there was a period of time where I'd wake up in the morning and there was just this knowing, this is a vessel, this is a meat suit, this is a body, I am experiencing this is my body right now, but I am not this body. So there's I feel a lot of spiritual benefits to Kundalini awakening. The overall idea behind Kundalini awakening is getting more in touch with your crown chakra. I feel that ancient cultures had a lot better spiritual understanding on how the human body worked and things of that nature. And we think we're so smart because we have technology, or we think we have technology. I think humans in the past had far superior technology and far superior knowing of just spirituality in general. I don't think that I didn't go to church growing up, but looking at how churches work and things like that, and if it works for people, that's great. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I feel there's better resources to become spiritually, not advanced, but spiritually educated than going to church. I think there's far better resources depending on how you define spirituality. So now I want to get into why I'm starting this podcast. I'm starting this podcast, Awakening with Wilson, because originally what I wanted to do was do really well in the excavation business, have a bunch of money, and then I wanted to kind of build a big meditation center because I wanted to teach people. I wanted to give people the tools of meditation. I feel like meditation is a very valuable tool. I feel like I would have been a much happier child growing up had I known about meditation, been taught meditation, manifesting, all that stuff, but also learning about the chakras. That's very important to me as well. For boys, semen retention is very important. I felt like growing up, it was almost expected to release that seed in one way or another growing up, because in the United States, at least, maybe it's different in other places, but when you're growing up especially in a city, it seems like everything revolves around sex, drugs, and alcohol. And these are all the things that keep you low vibration, that keep you in a fear-based mentality. So I just wanted to teach people about semen retention, the sacred secretion, if people are familiar with that, or they could become familiar with that. There's many ways to advance spiritually that are right there out in the open, very easy to do. They just take a little discipline. And if we're going to ascend to what some refer to as a new earth, I feel like we need to teach people these basics. These are very basic things. We haven't even gotten into sacred geometry or astral projecting or anything like that. But the reason I started the podcast is it was kind of contingent on the business doing well. I don't want what I'm trying to do to be contingent on another business. Periodically, me starting a podcast would come up. And at first, I didn't feel like I had enough information to start a podcast and bring anything of value to people. But now I'm a little more well versed in things. And I was over at the rock shop I frequent very, very often, where I get my bracelets and my angel crackle quartz and stuff like that. And I talk with the shop owner a lot. And she said, "Hey, why don't you start a podcast?" And I talk about learning how to follow your heart. And I've had a lot of the heart pain through this process. But for the first time, I feel like in my life, my heart chakra lit up when the idea of me starting a podcast came up. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. This is what I wanted to start it on. And I'd actually watch a video. I forget the woman's name, but she was talking about following your heart and how that feeling happens, where you light up, your vibration raises up. And I was in a great mood the rest of the day, just even thinking about starting a podcast. So that's why I'm starting a podcast. It's to help educate others, perhaps even educating myself on my journey. And I plan on teaching others what I know and interviewing other people so we can all learn. And that's my mission. Till next time, this is the Awakening with Wilson podcast.